All right, so we're going to jump right in with part two, um, and in this part we're just going to continue with the room. So we'll kind of get started and see where we can take this. I won't do every asset. I'm going to do all the major categories, and then as you can see, I mean it's just really repeat. So this is again part two for creating a 3D asset, 3D stage for some of your projects. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create the roof now. So I'm going to start out here under this castle pack. I have some beams, or no, this is the medieval pack I have. I'm sorry. And I have some beams here. Let me find one here that I like because we need some floor support. So there we go. I like that one. So we're going to bring that over, and again, we'll go ahead and rotate it. By the way, if you use the rotation tool, if you're not sure which one's X, Y, or Z, it's nice and easy. Just look which one that changes. Kind of lazy, but it works. So I'm gonna get this beam sized up how I like it. I'm gonna play with it for a couple of minutes till I get it just where I want it. And you'll notice there's already lights and shadows. We will cover lights, how to make the candle lights, everything else as this goes forward. So again, switching between R and W. Let me get this roof beam where I want it. And there are, again, same thing. If you go out to TurboSquid or Free 3D or Sketchfab, for example, you can find a lot of this type of asset for free. You may modify it a little bit. You may want to change your textures, etc. If this tutorial goes over and some folks want it, I can go over. I can do a little tutorial on how to find all these assets. So all right, so I got the beam, so I'm gonna grab another one. I like this facade here. This is again same pack, and I'm going to let me line this up, and I want some molding, right? But I'm thinking I want to be dramatic. It's a medieval castle, and so I'm gonna use this particular facade. Like I said, it came through in this medieval pack that really cool. It gives you about 300 different items you can use to make your own buildings. In this case, right, I'm using it to help make my own room. Let me get it. And the first thing you'll notice here as I get it lined up that the texture looks awful. It just stretched the texture and doesn't look good, right? And you could leave it alone. You could just figure that, well, what's the point of changing it? I'm not going to zoom in that close, but here you go. So first thing I want to just show you is, so we're going to select the diffuse so that we, for texturing, and you'll notice we don't have access to the tiling. So don't confuse it with any of the other command, areas. And all you got to do, as you see, is just unselect, treat all materials the same, and then you'll get access to it. And now I can come down here to the tiling, and I just changed it the same 3:1. Same thing I did, same scale with the other deal. Then I use my control. Sorry, I'm a little behind keeping up with myself here. And then I can use the control key and just drag and create a second one, get it lined up where I want it, and there we go. So now I got a kind of a huge molding. Again, it's kind of rounding up to support the room. I like that. We've got a beam in here. I'll line the beam up. I want to kind of center it on the table because that will be the center of the room when we're done. And let's see how that looks. I think that's looking good. And you can kind of see again. And then if I hit control and drag, I can create, because you're going to have more than one beam, obviously. I'm going to put probably 4 or 5. Here we go. Like that. And I'm just kind of lining them up. No specific place, just trying to make them even. I'm using some guidelines on the molding itself, the facade to get that there. Here we go. And you can see, all right, there we go. That's good. So I still need a roof, so I can use it again. You can use a primitive shape and stretch it out and do the same exact thing, but there's no reason not to use a plane. So I'm going to hit create, shape, surface, and plane. Then I'm just going to bring this up. So one of the things you notice right away is you can only see one side, and it can be a pain when lining things up, if at times. So anyway, let me get this square. All right. So it's hard to tell exactly where it's at. So I can look at it from underneath, and this is fine. Or I can go down here to the materials tab, and I can just click on two-sided, and there you go. See, now I can see it, and to me it's just easier because as I'm moving things around and I'm lining it up, I don't have to go one area or the other. At this point, I don't really care completely about the dimensions, but this will also show you, so you can create those same surfaces, walls, floors, etc., using just a flat surface, or you can use, like I said, a primitive that also has depth. You're going to get the same results from inside the room. The room itself won't care, and the visuals won't change. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Let me get that lined up right on top of the beams. And I'm going to use a wood texture for the floor because they would have laid wood over it, in my opinion, and it'll kind of line up. And I got this same thing. I got this texture from one of the texture libraries that you can find free out there. If you buy different packs and all, you can get a lot of materials here within IClone, but in the end, even if you have all those, you end up wanting more. So I'm going to drag this surface over here, and of course, initially it's too big. It doesn't make sense almost. So again, I'm going to come down here to the tiling, and I'm going to change this till I get the look I want. Not as worried here because there we go. So I'm okay with this. It's not ideal, but it'll make the point that I'm trying to make. It's ornate, so again, it's a big castle. They would have something nice. I'm not going to bother with a normal map or any of that on this one because it's a ceiling and it's not going to be looking that close. But we already went through. You can create a normal map, in a few minutes. So I'm going to select all the items. So the beams and everything and the moldings, and I'm going to attach them all to the what I'll the texture for the ceiling. Just click on attach, and there we go. And again, this way, when I move the ceiling, if I need to, it moves everything with it. And if nothing else, it cleans it up, right? So, I can turn things off by group, and it makes it, easier to go. So we'll make another wall here. So I see when I select the wall, you see it brings everything that was part of the wall with it. So I'm going to just move it, rotate it, line it up. I'll remove that tapestry in a few minutes. Don't worry about the different shading. It's just because we haven't messed with the lights yet. So really the only change I need to make on this, I can narrow it up and stretch it so that it covers the wall, and then again, use the R hard key and then hit W, and I can come over. There we go, and get that closed up. So now we've got two walls. Now it's being made to look funny, right, by the tapestry. Get rid of that. We don't need that on this. I should change the tiling, but just for the sake of speed on all this stuff, since I already showed you all how to do that, clearly it doesn't look quite right on that, but again, it's as we went over, it's an easy fix. So we'll leave it alone. Just again, I keep saying the word again, sorry, but it's a long tutorial, but we're covering a lot of stuff. So there we go. So we got a wall. It's starting to look good, right? And let's look at the texture. Let's see what we want to do next. All right, let's go ahead and what are we looking for? Let's do the rug. Yeah, all right, let's jump over and do the rug because I want to show you some things on that. So I found this cool medieval looking rug. And we're just going to save the image as, and we're going to save it out to one of our folders. Let me get over there. Hang on. Just call it rug. There we go. All right, so we got the rug saved out there. And I'm going to, again, create surface plane. So the rug will be, convert it to a plane. And the reason you embed the textures to a plane is the plane itself, um, it's just that it's a surface, and when you embed the texture, it basically replaces that plane with that whatever texture you dragged in there, whatever diffuse layer. And that's what the embed does, and that's why you lose access to some of the controls until that point. So let me find where I put this rug. There we go. And I'm going to pull it in. So first thing you'll notice, because it's a JPEG, you're going to see kind of an awful white fringe, right? And we're going to get rid of that. But let's size it up. And again, I just do it till I like the way it looks. But you can calculate the ratio by going into another software and seeing it, what the pixel dimensions of each side are and all. But to me, visual's fine. So I'm going to embed this texture so I can edit it. There we go. Now I can launch my, there we go. So we'll launch Photoshop, and now we can edit. So this is where PNG is really important. So we're going to use the magic eraser tool and just get rid of the white border. There we go. Make sure it's selected. I like go ahead and duplicate it. This way you have, if you screw it up, you have a layer you don't, to start. So here we go. We'll zoom in a little bit. You can see it's actually a nice looking carpet, and it's not perfect, so it definitely looks real as opposed to just throwing a pattern on something. Magic eraser tool, select it, bam. So as long as you export it as a PNG, that's exactly how it's going to go in, move into the into IClone. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the layer so I can create a normal map. And again, filter 3D, select normal map. And there we go. I like, again, use the sphere. As we talked about in part 1, I'm only going to use blur and scale detail. There's a lot of other things you can adjust to really determine how you want the light to interact with this. It just, for this tutorial, this is enough. And generally for what we use the majority of the normal maps for, the majority of the surfaces we deal with, this is plenty anyway. So I'm going to look for the amount of detail I want. Remember, we can change the strength in the software, and you can come back out and make another one. Either one works just fine. In this case, I don't want it too sharp. Yeah, I like that. All right, so we'll need to export both the normal, and we'll have to export the carpet itself in PNG, and then that'll, as you'll see, that'll get rid of the fringe. Let me get over to tutorial directory. There we go. And I saved that as diffuse. We'll have to fix that. Was it? Should change the name to normal. Let's go over here, turn that one off, turn the other layer back on. And the good thing is about bringing both in, if you make any changes, right, you always want to make sure you're making changes to both. So, because that will, that's going to give you your best look if everything lines up, is basically, it's the bottom line. So that's the diffuse. I'll just remind myself that's the PNG. Okay, now we can close it. So watch what happens. We'll yank the PNG in there, and bam, the white border goes away. Throw a normal in there, and yeah, sometimes when you have it open, you just gotta close it. It won't let you. There you go. Click on normal map and click OK. It won't let you close the file if you have it open, just the way the software is once it opens that little window. So just click on IClone and it'll get you there. So you can see how the rug has depth, and you can play around with how much, what the strength is. And just, again, it's your project. Figure out how much you like and what you like. So I don't think you should worry about much more than that. So here we go. We're going to line that up and get it right about at ground level. There we go. And you notice, by the way, I turned the grid off once I get the first element in. Grid drives me nuts, but you know, if you can use that to line stuff up if you feel comfortable that way. But anyway, I'm going to center the rug. I actually like the size already. There we go. Now we're starting to, again, the room, we're starting to get there. So now you've seen how to make tapestries, rugs. We're bringing in assets. We've found some. We've made some. Let's bring in, let's put a door, I think, next, right? So we got the ceiling, and then we'll start with the chandeliers and lights and stuff. So just, again, this came with the medieval pack. I'm doing a little short film on some medieval. It's basically set in medieval time, and so I went ahead and invested in this pack. It wasn't that expensive. I think it was like $30, and it gave me like 300 different assets I could use to, walls, ceilings, roofs, doors, and I can use them in a variety of ways. And I have two of their, I guess I call them play sets, but they're packs. One is medieval and one is Roman, and that covers really what I want to do. If I need modern stuff, I actually already own that in After Effects. So I'm going to scale the door up, just put it in place where I want it, and I think I was at 150%, yeah, 125% actually. Okay, then I'm going to line it up. I don't want too big a stoop, and there you go. Now you have a door. There are ways to do open doors and stuff. Again, and looking through to another room, I've done that. Some other projects. If there's any interest in any of that, if I get, it's the first time I've kind of done how to make a scene, how I make my scenes, and if there's interest, I'll do it later. So here, if we open up 3D Exchange, right, we're gonna focus on the chandelier. So again, as I mentioned, I went out, I downloaded something from I got this one from Sketchfab. It's free as long as you're not using it for commercial use. It came with an OBJ and textures, so it was easy. And so again, just download it and then bring it in. In this case, it was an FBX. I'm sorry. Some of these are OBJ, some are FBX. And now I've got a chandelier. And always make sure nothing's selected because this thing has a tendency to overwrite. Now I'm just going to apply it to IClone. So again, I just go into 3D Exchange, I drag the FBX in, click OK, and then bring it into IClone, and there we go. And first thing we'll notice, again, like I was saying, the scale isn't where we need it to be, but that's a very easy fix. So, and this was free, right? I just went on Sketchfab, and found it. Because I figure if I try and make every single asset from scratch, there's just not enough hours in a day. I'm trying to make a short film, and when I do the film, I'll find out who the artist was that made this, and I'll make sure to give him credit. And since it's for non-commercial use, I'm completely compliant with their license. So as far as textures, this one came with all the textures, so the easiest way to apply them is just to drag them over. So, and you can already see it's starting to get some color, and it'll tell you which one's which. Ambient occlusion, it's got roughness, it's got normal. If you bring your displacement map first, it will auto-generate its normal, a bump map, actually a grayscale bump map. And again, when you do drag the normal over, you always gotta just make sure you get access to it. So put your file explorer out of the way and drag everything over. In this case, like I said, we can do a full PBR materials because it came with everything. As I showed you with the surface tools, we can make our own, but this one has it, so definitely puts you in a good shape to create a good looking accessory and not a lot of work. So, and you'll notice I'm going to attach it to the Sorry, I was just doing some cleanup here. So we're gonna take let's go ahead and do the next. So we're gonna do a primitive shape and pick a cylinder. So because I don't have an asset for chain, and I'm not gonna spend the time to do that in this tutorial. I actually have one that I made, but I just really pressing time here. This, like I said, this tutorial's over an hour. So again, but it's the same process, right? I have an OBJ of a chain. I texture it, and you can see here all I'm doing with the cylinder is because it's just going to hang the chandelier from it. So it's just going to make it look like a piece of wood. So I'm going to make the length I need it, and I'm going to line it up so it's centered on one of the beams and centered on the table. And easier way sometimes to line these things up is to use the F, the A, W, and D key, which will go, your front, side, and back views. Sometimes when I'm thinking, I just like playing around. So I'm going to line these scales up for just the X and Y because I want the length left alone. And you can see that's still way too big. Let's get that to the right size. I think that's close. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay. So let's pull that over, center it on the table and the door. I can select the chandelier, and I need to line that up. And it takes a few minutes here. Again, it's quicker if you just line up the faces, but I don't know, just the way I always tend to do it. Put it where I want it. It's still not quite centered. And I think in terms of, right, so that's looking good up. The other wall got in the way, but you can see now it kind of lines up there, and when we're done, it will actually, you won't notice it. So, and there, so this chandelier is really hanging off of kind of a wooden dowel instead of a chain. So, lowered the size a little bit, looks centered really well. So one of the things I want to do, once I get it where I want it, I will parent the cylinder to the chandelier. This way, it's part of the chandelier. If we move one, we want to move both. So, I guess I'll do the color first. You can change the hue, but in this case, I just want to make it darker to look kind of like the chandelier. So, there we go. All right, that's close. Again, could play with that a little longer. You could even bring in a wood texture if you want it. Don't feel the need for this particular item, so I select the cylinder. I'm going to parent it to the chandelier. You can select the chandelier in the scene, or just come over to the scene under props and select it. Either one works. So now you can see we've got our first chandelier, and now here's what's cool, right? Oops, I made a mistake here. So you can see how we can just take part, but if we select chandelier, it will duplicate the chandelier and anything that's attached to it. So in this case, we're going to do 3 of these, and again, just hold Control and grab it, and it'll duplicate automatically for you. It'll do that with any prop. It will not do it for avatars, but it will do it for props. And so there we go. And now I'm going to select all 3, and I'm going to parent them up. So I'm going to click Attach, pick Parent, and I'm going to parent them to the ceiling. This way, if I move the ceiling, it moves the chandeliers. So again, and you can group these however you want. That's just how I do it. And so as you can see, if I move the ceiling, it moves everything. All right, so got that. Starting to look the way I want it. Theoretically could be done depending on your scene. One thing, you'll notice I have food assets and all sorts of candelabras and stuff. All those I found free, like I said, just by Googling and going to different sites. A lot of folks are willing to share some of their artwork. And again, as long as you're not selling it and you give them credit, they're fine with that. So they put it specifically in the descriptions. So there we go. So you'll notice I just duplicated the wall. Now here, let me duplicate these facades. I should have I should have hooked these to the walls, to be honest with you. But anyway, we'll just sort it out. By the time I go back and fix it, it's not worth it. So I say that, and probably will be. But all right, so we drag it over. And you notice it's got the same tapestry, everything when I copied the wall. One of the things you can then do is just replace like the tapestry, but you don't have to change the position, right? And it gives you options. So let's get this lined up, and here we go. Slide it over, and this just take a minute because I've decided to make this hard for some reason. But I do want you to look while I'm fixing this. Is just you can see how the ceiling, it looks dramatic, but it's missing some stuff, and that will become apparent when we change the lighting. It'll really change the look of everything and make it a lot more dynamic. So so you always want to be patient, right? Because right now to me it looks okay, but it's missing a lot. Also remember, it's in the little details that make success. So like if you leave the room and you don't put candles, and as you see, we'll put some lights, and put some light sources and some food on the table. I even have forks, knives. If you don't have the fireplace actually going, it will. You're trying to suspend reality when you make these things. You're trying. The great thing about working in 3D is that we're creating an actual world. I mean, we're creating this room, and if it's not lit correctly or it's not right, it will show very quickly, and we'll pay, we'll kind of pay for that, and in the enjoyment people get from watching, our work. So as you can see, we've got a dining room coming together. The knights I made, I basically took the knight we used to size, and I modified their outfit. It comes with IClone for everybody, so and I basically got rid of the Templar look and created my own look. And you can go into the normal maps and roughness maps and create everything. So here we're going to do the lighting. So I use spotlights. Point lights won't. Spotlights will cast shadows. So just go up to create light, spotlight, and I'm going to line. You notice how I turned off one of the walls. Now here's where I was saying I should have connected these to the walls, because I want to be able to see where I place the lights. One thing I wish IClone had was ability to turn things off but still have the lights effect as if it was there, but it doesn't offer that. So I'm going to move these both over to the wall so that when so just disconnect and reconnect it with the wall. So instead of the ceiling, this way when I turn the wall off, it turns them off, and you'll see why. Because I want to be able to place the lights, out here from a distance and see everything. So I'm going to just basically move a spotlight directly over the chandelier, and you can decide where you want this depending on how you want the shadows to interact and everything else. And I'm going to play around with the shadows and stuff as I go along, and just see how the different stuff looks, and you can see how the different, commands and adjustments, etc., change things. So first thing, you don't see much, right? So let's turn off the rim light and the key. Then we're going to come down to the image-based lighting under the visual and turn that off. So if you have the image-based lighting on a room too much, you'll defeat the light sources because it'll overpower them. So now I can start, adjusting lights. And if you come over here and you select the light and you go over the modify, you can select the range and, of course, the angle of how wide you want the light to disperse. You can make it soft or a hard line, right? And by adjusting the attenuator and the fall off and do what you can to make it natural. You can also change the color of the light. I'll do that with the fireplaces a little bit later. But and again, I want a little bit of IBL here, so let's take it down. Yeah, there we go. And all right, so now we have a spotlight. And one of the things that I do is I'll try and create the lighting as natural as I can, and which a room like this would be fairly dark, right? And then what I'll do is I can take a spotlight with just a small light and essentially light the character a little bit artificially, but I can light the character while the camera's focused on them when the scene's going, so that it does, it's not quite natural, but you want to be able to see someone when they talk if you don't want them in the dark, and for example, and in this case, I've got a lot of candles ultimately in the scene, and I was able to, by angling how that light reacted, I was able to get the look I wanted. So again, I'm going to bring these down. They're going to reflect off of I've got it showing a reflection. You'll notice one thing when I select the lights, the shadow adjustment doesn't, it works if you turn it on and off, but it doesn't really, and if you have it off, by the way, the light's going to be 100% under the table, right? So you need it darker under the table. So I mean, we have to do this. So what you really have to do, and I always suppress shadow flicker, and so really you want to adjust the strength of all of them. And I'm going to turn it down here a little bit for now. At the end, we're going to crank it back up because you can see it's lit under the table. So I mean, it's definitely not where we're going to want it just yet, but it does make above the table look nicer. And so, you got to play with it. And the real solution on this one is to lower the spotlights so that they're providing light, but they're not providing shadows from the chandelier. Or use multiple lights. And you can use a lot, but just remember it takes power, computing power to do it. So I'm going to create here, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to create an emissive plane. So you go over to create emissive plane. Making a good candlelight when you have this many candles is almost impossible. But what you can do is use an emissive plane that, while you can't really get a flickering effect, it will give you at least a light effect that will resemble candlelight to the best of your, it's about as good as we can take care. So I put the emissive plane in place, just line it up, and then scale it, it would, as if it had a small, I'm going to turn off so I can't see those spotlights. And I'm kind of putting the emissive plane where I want. You'll notice it's bright on the other side. We'll fix that here in a second. So I'm going to turn it around, and you can see, now I can see a little bit of glow. It's taking the light, essentially, and it's magnifying it in that area. And what I can do with this is I can come down to the material settings, and I can change the diffuse color. Candlelight would be, let's just say a little bit of an orange-ish, and I'll create a ambient color for that. Doesn't really affect it a lot. Let's darken that up a little bit. Yeah, it's not too bad. So you'll notice it doesn't cast shadows, it doesn't do anything else. It simply admits the light it receives. So, and I can put one of these on every candle that I want. But you'll notice when I turn around the scene, I lose track of it. So it's real simple. Go to your main selection and simply tell it to look at camera. And it will tell you it's looking at the preview camera because we're in preview. Make sure you set the right camera for this. Otherwise, it'll still be where the preview is and not the actual camera. So depending on which camera you use, and then you can have it, with the look weight, whether it moves 100% with it or not. Now, when we circle around, we see the light. So now we can take these lights and we can duplicate them. I want to change this a little bit. Oh, one thing, when you parent the light, I parent them to the ceiling itself. You can also do the chandelier, but be careful what you parent them to. Like if you parent them all to just one of the lights, when you move the camera, they'll actually move off axis and they won't stay over the candles. So be careful if you do parent these. Again, I just do it to the ceiling. And we just, by using the W command and play around with the exact positioning. And again, just to go over here, if you ever forget the shortcuts, there you go. Just go to camera view and it'll tell you what they are. And I'm going to adjust these. It's going to take longer than probably any of us want. But while I'm doing that, again, there are limits. I mean, this isn't Disney class software, but it does a lot if you just play around with it and look for different ways to do things. And like I said, a combination of purchased assets, try and have some imagination. You notice as I move the camera, these things keep turning towards us, and that thing looks lit no matter where we go. And you can also break your scenes up. Like, right, we rarely just stay on one scene for a long time. So there's always a possibility of, depending on how you're doing your editing, of just breaking the scene up, turning on what you need and turn off what you're not using for a particular scene. And while still keeping the base set, right? Because what this is really focused on is set creation. Just like, frankly, just like they would do in any movie, is you create your sets. So this is one of the main sets that we created for an upcoming short film that we're working on. It's probably not going to come out till late summer, but I wish I could attach to this. Just still needs work. And there's about 5 main sets for that. And then there's an overall scene looking over the water, over the town with the castle up on a hill. And by the way, you'll notice, right, select all the lights, click W, and you can, control and grab it, and you can just stretch it. And since the candles are in the same place on these, just line it up. And so once you create the lights for one chandelier, you've got them all. Now, if I'd have done the lights first, which would have been even smarter, we wouldn't have even had to do that, because it would have recreated the lights with each chandelier. But I was trying to break the tutorial up into a few areas, so that's why. So again, we're going to select all the lights, go to attach. Attach can apply to multiple objects at once. We're going to come over to here to ceiling, and now all the lights are in the ceiling. So, and another thing, and I do another tutorial on this, you can also use dummies. So if you want to create these subfolders and you don't necessarily want anything to be a master, you can actually create a dummy object, just like this dummy, and attach everything to that. And then you can have the chandelier, everything, and it even gives you more ability to move stuff. So again, let's play around with the IBL. I'm going to lower that a little more. Okay. I think that's all right. And by the way, things outside the set you'll never see. It doesn't matter if a plane is too wide or whatnot, unless you're making the whole house, then you would adjust. But it's the same philosophy, nothing different from what we've been doing. And all right, so I like that. So I'm going to take the spotlight. You can just create a new one or copy it. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to turn off one of the walls, and because we're going to create the light for the fireplace. So, and again, you're just looking how the light reacts and what you're trying to get at, and light your scene based on, don't waste your time lighting it on something it's not going to help you, right? So work on all your settings, your colors. So basically there would be a glow from a fireplace. I think and that's all I'm creating. So you've got your candle lights, you're going to have glow from the fire. You're going to have, on a scene like this, you're not going to have like a dominant single light. And that's why I just turn off the key light. It just doesn't, it wouldn't give you the effect of a room that's going to have light and dark areas based on very low intensity candles. But on the other hand, you'll notice I have them maybe a little stronger than would be natural, because I still need to be able to see the characters. But in your scene, you might be different. So if you use a lot of candle lights, you may want it darker. Maybe you're making a horror type movie. Whatever you're doing, so that people walk in from the shadows into the light, which can be a really cool effect. And by using your spotlights, you can create all that, and it can make some really cool effects. Those type of changes I would make after I made the scene. So I would set the basic scene up, and then what I do is I'll go in and I'll make whatever necessary adjustments that I think are necessary. And here we go. So I can click on the multiplier right next to it, and I can change the color. Because fire, I want it to be a little orange on the fire. Maybe that's too orange. I'm not sure. Let's see. And you'll see I'm just changing the multiplier and the fall off, and just to decide how much glow I want from the fireplace. One thing you'll notice is, and there's not a really good way to get flickering light, to get like you would a natural fireplace, but you can get the glow and you can get the intent. And then, to be honest with you, I take all these things into After Effects, and I can, you can use other software to get a flickering effect, that would just kind of change the intensity of the light. It's not really that hard, so you can do that in post. So if you have the other software such as Adobe After Effects, you can actually make it even more realistic by taking the same scene and then using the After Effects to kind of change the random, because you can set up essentially a script to do that. So again, you'll notice I'm bringing in a chandelier here. Same thing. I just typed in candelabra, and I found this one on Turbo Squid. Somebody did it. It's really cool. Get the 3D objects. Now you'll notice when I applied it on this one, it didn't show up in my scene like the chandelier did. I don't know why some do this and some don't, but if I come over, if it doesn't, just go to props, custom, and I'll stick it in a directory there. So I don't know particularly why it does that. Now I'm just going to scale it up like we talked about, make sure X, Y, Z are locked, and find the right size. I want it to be big. And again, I just, as long as you have the pipeline version, you have 3D Exchange, you can bring any 3D FBX or OBJ in without any issue. I like the FBXs if they have them, because the materials just seem to be more readily available, but OBJ works just fine. And then if you don't have textures with it, you can use Substance Painter, things like that, which would be another tutorial, but it's there for you. And see, I'm continuing to just play around with these till I get what I want. And again, you can see, you control the shadows really by going over to the visual tab. So I definitely want to, there we go, because I want to make sure under the table's darker, otherwise it doesn't make sense, right? The reason I turned off the other lights is the fireplace is going to light up under the table somewhat. So, again, I want to keep it as natural as I can, like that. Might ultimately change the color, but okay. Change the intensities of these. And of course, there would be candles on the table itself. And again, I just want to keep pointing out, I don't know why the shadow strength is not adjustable on these spotlights. It's just, haven't figured that one out. But you can do a global adjustment, as I showed in not sure what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to think here a little bit. Trying to just play around till you get the look you like. And that's all I'm doing here is, in the end, like I said, on the regular scene, I lowered the spotlights a little bit to set the reflections up a little differently. Because I don't want to make one spotlight for each candle. I mean, to me, that would just be too many light sources to deal with, and I'm not sure it gets me anything. So the other thing I need to do or want to do is there would be light, the fireplace itself would be lit, right? So I'm going to create another spotlight looking into the fireplace, and I've got one showing out, because that, again, to me, that's a little more natural. So just as I keep saying, just find what you like. Find what makes, when you look at it, you go, this is really cool. Because what you find is you have a lot of things available to you. You also have a lot of, think the internet is a great source for ideas, because you type in looking for one thing and you find another. In my town scene, I was able to find a bunch of fountains on they were again free online as long as it's a personal, it's not commercial. And I was able to make some little squares in the village with a fountain, right? And I found a statue that I really liked on one, and so I put a statue way in the entranceway to the town. Um, they and I found all that stuff just looking around and seeing what's out there and coming up with ideas. You can see here I jumped over to the actual scene I had done. I jumped back and you can see here where all the assets, the tapestries on the wall. You can see the light. For right now it's very dim, and again, what I did is I explained is I'll use lighting on the individual character to just light them up just a little bit, and so we see them a little better when they're talking and moving, and you can see the guards in the background, and there's your 3D room. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you have questions, put them below. I know this was long, but again, I'm hoping I covered a lot of stuff for you and hopefully helps you get ideas, which I think is more important than telling you how to do something. So thank you for watching my tutorial, and you have a great day.